Today we're talking about a way to run a blockchain called Delegated Proof of Stake. It's a system that promises insane speed and scale, and it does it by borrowing a really old idea, democracy. But what happens when you try to build a democracy on a blockchain? Can it actually work, or is it doomed from the start? Let's get into it. Okay, so at the end of the day, every blockchain on the planet has to solve this one giant problem. You've got a global network of computers. None of them trust each other, there's no central boss, so how in the world do you get all of them to agree on the exact same version of reality? It's a huge challenge, and it's led to some pretty brilliant and really different answers. You've probably heard of the original solution, proof of work. It's what Bitcoin uses. It is super secure, but man, is it slow, and it uses a shocking amount of energy. So to fix that, we got proof of stake. Instead of burning electricity, validators put their own money on the line, their stake, for a chance to secure the network. It's a much more efficient way to do things. But, even proof of stake has its speed limits. So what if you need a network that can handle thousands of transactions, not per minute, but per second? Something that could actually power a global payment system? Well, that's where things start to get really interesting. And that brings us to Delegated Proof of Stake, or DPoS for short. The thinking behind it was pretty simple. Instead of having thousands of people trying to validate everything all at once, why not just vote? Why not elect a small group of trusted professionals to do the job for everyone else? Kind of like a representative democracy. So this is basically how it works. It's a process that takes individual coins and turns them into real governing power. It all happens in 3 phases that look a whole lot like a digital election. Let's break down exactly how that works. It really boils down to a simple 3-step process. First, you stake your coins, and that gets you voting power. Usually it's 1 coin, 1 vote. Simple. Second, you use that power to vote for the candidates you want running things. They're called block producers or sometimes super representatives. And third, you let that small elected group get to work, handling all the transactions and making the big decisions for the entire network. And the result of this whole streamlined setup? Speed. I mean, serious speed. A network like Tron, which runs on DPoS, can handle more than 2,000 transactions a second. That's the kind of performance you need for real-world mainstream use. So, it sounds perfect, right? Case closed? Well, not so fast, because there's a catch. A big one. This system has a very specific weakness. As one paper puts it, a takeover is when an attacker manages to get control of that small committee of block producers. If they do that, they suddenly have immense control over the whole blockchain. They can freeze accounts, reverse transactions, you name it. See, that's the fundamental trade-off. All that efficiency comes from concentrating power into a small group, and that concentration creates a huge, flashing target. It's basically an open invitation for a hostile takeover, a digital coup. And if you're thinking this is all just theoretical what-if stuff, it's not. It has actually happened. Back in 2020, the community behind a blockchain called Steam found out about this risk in the worst way possible. Here's the play-by-play. First, Tron's founder bought up a huge amount of Steam tokens, giving him a massive war chest of voting power. Then, on March 2nd, 2020, they made their move. In one coordinated strike, they used that power to vote out all 20 of the original community-elected leaders. In less than an hour, a new committee, completely controlled by the attacker, was in charge. And the community? They were forced to pack up and leave. They literally had to abandon their own blockchain and start a new one from scratch. Now let's look at the data, because this is pretty wild. This chart is basically a health meter for the network's security. It shows how hard it would be for an attacker to seize control. The line represents the voting power an attacker would need to defeat the community's chosen representatives. And as you can see, leading up to the attack, things are okay. They're bouncing around, but it's stable. This is the before. And this is the after. Look at that cliff right there. That's March 2nd. The attacker's voting power just completely overwhelmed the community's defenses, and the whole system collapsed. The original leaders were gone, just like that, replaced by accounts loyal to the attacker. It was a total regime change, executed in a matter of hours. So, yeah, that is pretty terrifying, right? It makes you wonder if these systems are just sitting ducks, completely defenseless. But the answer is no. They do have ways to fight back. The security in these systems really boils down to 2 kinds of resistance. First, there's passive resistance. You can think of this as the default security level.
It's just the sheer number of community votes an attacker has to overpower to even get started. But then you've got active resistance. This is when the alarm bells go off. The community sees a threat, leaders put out a call to action, and voters band together to fight back. It's the democracy defending itself. And the nitty-gritty details of how these democracies are designed, they matter a lot. Take a look here. On EOS, you need 15 out of 21 producers to agree on something. On Steam, it was 17. Tron needs 19 out of 27. These small differences in the political math totally change the game and can make a takeover much, much harder to pull off.
So when you boil it all down, delegated proof of stake is all about one massive trade-off. You get this incredible speed and efficiency by concentrating a ton of power in the hands of a very small group. But doing that, well, it opens up a whole new can of worms and introduces some very serious risks. And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? In this constant race to build faster, more scalable blockchains, what are we willing to give up? Is it all about efficiency, no matter the cost? Or is that core principle of decentralization something that we just can't afford to compromise on? What exactly is the right price for progress?